Hi, I'm Ross Burnell, editor and publisher of Fly Fisherman magazine. Welcome to Loop, where we make deeper connections with the people behind the magazines. We are sponsored by Patagonia. Check out their new line of Swift Current waders. They've got the Expedition and the Traverse. Both have zip front models. They've been redesigned and repatterned, so it doesn't just make them tougher, it makes them easier to repair and get you back on the water. And they work really well with the stealth switch packs that you can convert and wear them different ways. You can wear them on your suspenders, of your waders, you can wear them on your wader belt or as a sling pack. So they work really cool together. Check those out. We're also sponsored by G. Loomis, American-made fly rods made in Woodland, Washington. I got started using those rods when I started fishing with my friend Steve Rajeff, and even today, I am still using Asquith, NRX Plus, and IMX Pro rods for different situations and different kinds of fishing. If you enjoy this podcast, please support our sponsors, and you can support us by subscribing to the magazine at flyfisherman.com. You can also follow us on social media. On Instagram, we are at Fly Fisherman Magazine. On Facebook at Fly Fisherman, and hopefully you're watching the YouTube version of this podcast on our YouTube channel at Fly Fisherman Magazine. Our guest today is Yvon Chouinard. He's the founder of Patagonia, a co-founder of 1% for the Planet, the author of several books including Let My People Go Surfing, and he's been a big influence on me personally in the ways I enjoy and participate in rock climbing, ice climbing, and fly fishing. He's had a huge impact on the entire outdoor community in protecting the environment, and he's changed the ways many companies do business and treat their employees and our planet. About 10 years ago, he was co-author of the book Simple Fly Fishing, and he's now co-author of the new book Pheasant Tail Simplicity, which will be out in October 2025. We'll talk a bunch about that book today. Welcome, Yvon, and thanks for sitting down with me.
Thank you.
The book's beautiful, and I want to dig into that. Lots of great photos of fly tying materials. We were just talking about Hungarian partridge and stuff. Some of those capes are beautiful, and I really want to dig into the book, but I would like to go further back first and cover some other topics. I think the first one that I'm most curious about is recently Patagonia had a change in ownership, basically. Can you explain how the Earth owns Patagonia now and how that works?
Well, it's pretty complicated, and we were one of the first companies in the U.S. to do this because the laws just changed to allow it. But we basically took all our voting stock and donated it to a nonprofit. And so we no longer own Patagonia. And, some people think that it was a tax scheme to avoid paying death taxes or something. But no, we paid $18 million in taxes, and now it's owned by the planet, basically, because all our excess profits every year goes to a dividend, which goes into Holdfast Foundation and 4 other NGOs. So we have 5 different entities that give the money away.
So the whole purpose of the company now is just to fund environmental causes forever.
Yeah. I mean, before that, I thought, well, we've been doing a bunch of stuff to try to do some good around the planet, but it's not enough. And I changed the mission statement to where it says, we're in business to save our home planet. So we're dead serious about that. And so it was natural just to make the whole company follow the mission statement.
Is climate change the main focus of those environmental issues, or there's a range of things?
Climate change is 3/4 of it. Yeah. although there's just so much you can do because, government has to step up and do things. In fact, every country in the world has to work together for climate change. And so, but, we buy areas in South America, vast areas that capture carbon and make sure that they're protected forever. We work with NGOs in Africa to do the same. So yeah, climate change is it's the bottom line, isn't it? Nothing else matters except try to save the planet.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you do in the outdoors.
Yeah.
Or just living, just staying alive. It's pretty
Yeah.
important. But have you seen climate change affecting your fishing? Like from a fly fishing standpoint, how has climate change affected where you fish?
Oh my gosh. This summer, Yellowstone was closed to fishing for a big part of the summer. The whole park. Here in Jackson Hole, south of town, they basically told they had a hoot owl closure, which no fishing from 2 in the afternoon till dawn, but it's voluntary, it's not mandatory. Like Yellowstone's mandatory. And then I fish a lot on east coast of Canada for salmon, and those rivers, a lot of those rivers are closed all season long now because of warm water, which stresses out the fish. And so as soon as the water gets to 68 or 70 degrees, the fish get really stressed. And they're like that almost all summer now. Yeah, everywhere. It's happening everywhere. In fact, there's a study done by Colorado University that we're going to lose 40% of our cold water fishery in 5 years from now.
Yeah, it's devastating for trout. And you do a lot of steelheading and Atlantic salmon too, and it affects the run timing and the water volume. And
it affects everything. Yeah, it's a matter of time before we'll have to be fly fishing for carp and walleye and stuff.
Yeah, it's a big impact on trout. I think trout are getting hit faster than anything else. But even you think of hot water species like bonefish. Yeah, it's sometimes the water's just so hot.
Oh, El Nino years at Christmas Island, there's no fish. Don't even bother going there during an El Nino year. The water's so hot. And in Florida, too. The fish just go way out into the deep water.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Getting deeper into the fly fishing thing, yeah, you and I have talked before about your early years climbing, and there's been a lot of films and stuff about your early climbing years, but I don't really know how you got started fly fishing. What was the start of, how'd you get into fly fishing? Was it your family, or you had a mentor? Or?
Well, I've been fishing for 79 years, and but mostly with spinners, and initially it was a worm on the end of a bamboo pole, and and a string and that type of thing. When I was about 12, I used to sneak into Bob Hope's golf course, and he had a bass pond there, and I'd make my own plugs and hide in the reeds and cast for bass. But then when I was here in the Tetons, when I was 18, I guess, Glenn Exum, who owned a guide service, the Mountain Guide Service, who I didn't know, but I happened to be walking by the guide shack, and he was teaching his son, Eddie Exum, who later became a really great fly fisherman. He was teaching him how to fly cast. And I had no idea what fly casting was. So I'm standing there barefooted, just shorts on, no shirt. And I'm watching intently, and he looks over at me and said, "Hey, come on over here, son." And he proceeded to teach me how to cast a fly rod. So I went out and I bought a spin cast combo, a spin fly combo.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know whether I was going to give up spin fishing and go whole hog on fly fishing. But as it turned out, I've never spin fished since.
Wow. Yeah. That's one of the things I wanted to ask you about is how climbing and fishing work together. Like when you were like in the dirtbag years in Yosemite, did you fly fish then, or were you just like?
No, that was spin fishing pretty much.
Okay.
I mean, and I killed fish and ate them. I mean, and I'd go into the Wind River Range with this spin cast fly rod thing and catch my meals. I mean, I was a starving climber. I was living on 50 cents a day, and I was poaching porcupines and marmot and ground squirrels and eating whatever I could. I'd go to the Fred's Market here in Jackson, and the butcher would save some bones for me and some fat. Call it fatty crap. So whenever I got fresh trout, it was pretty
Free calories. And some of those lakes, actually, there's so many fish in them that, you harvest a few out of them, the size can get bigger.
Yeah,
and
like
some of them, they're just filled with little tiddlers.
Lonesome Lake and the Wind Rivers had these brook trout with big heads and tiny bodies. And so there was just too many of them. So yeah, I was doing it some good.
Yeah, is that the one right at the base of Pingora?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, there were so many and so easy to catch. I remember putting on a cigarette filter on the end of a hook and catching a fish.
I've heard that's a good one for carp, but I've never heard of that's catching trout on them.
Yeah.
The mountain right behind that, there's a route named after you, right? Didn't you do a first ascent on a mountain right there? I'm pretty sure there is.
I used to do a lot of first ascents there, yeah.
I have 2 summers ago, my kids and we went and we rappelled down the Yosemite Falls down into the lower falls.
Oh, yeah.
And we made like a little film, and in the film I said, I think we're probably the first people that ever fished down in those pools. And then I got some emails afterwards, and they're like, no, you weren't. Yvon and Sheridan Anderson used to do that when they were at Camp 4. Is that true?
Yeah, that's right. No, and some of the pools you have to rappel and hang in your rappel because there's no beach down there or anything. And so you got to hang from the rope to fish. And I fished that with, super duper spinners, and we ate them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how they got there. I mean, it's a 2,000-foot waterfall, right?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Somehow they tumbled down as fingerlings and made it.
Yeah, there's no way they're coming up from below. The only other thing is maybe the mountains rose with them in it, but that was too long ago for trout. But they must have spilled down from above. But
yeah,
talk about seclusion when you're down there. You're definitely the only one fishing.
Yeah, John Muir used to go up. It's called Sunnyside Bench.
That's what we climbed.
Yeah,
he's the first guy that did that.
Yeah, well, he didn't fish, but
okay.
Well, maybe he did. I don't know. But anyway, he loved that. He used to solo up there and get up on Sunnyside Bench and, I don't know, contemplate or something.
Wow. It's quite a place to fish.
Yeah.
Let's dive into your book. Actually, I want to talk about simple fly fishing first, the book. When the first time I fished the Wind River Range, we were up there fishing for gold trout, and you were showing me how to Tenkara fish.
Yeah.
That book was all about simplifying all of your fly fishing, basically, right?
Yeah.
And a lot about Tenkara. Are you still Tenkara fishing, or when you're trout fishing, what's your tackle setup like these days?
Well, that's kind of a big question, but yeah, I got into Tenkara fishing in Italy. And I was over there fishing, and I got introduced to this old guy who's been doing it. They've been doing it in this valley since the 16th century, basically fishing with a pole without a reel. And he spent his whole life doing that. And in fact, he used to supply the hotels with fish and stuff in the old days when there were lots of fish. And I had been given a Tenkara rod by a young Japanese guy. I gave a lecture in Japan one time, and he presented me with a Tenkara rod, I said, presento, and I bowed, and I thought, thank you very much. And I thought, what the hell is it? I had no idea. I just sat in my closet. And finally, I went to Italy, and I saw this guy with my friend Mauro Mazzo, who's a co-author in this book. And I saw what he could do with a Tenkara rod. It was, he makes it was just a bamboo pole. The last 1.5 feet is a different kind of wood. I can't remember the type of wood it was, but he gathers the wood at a certain time of the year, so it has certain moisture content. And it's important that the last 1.5 feet has a certain spring to it, because he gives action to the fly. And, like a 9-foot 5-way rod, after you cast, it's just a stick in your hand. You can't do anything with it. But he uses that. And he makes a horsehair line, 18 strands of white stallion horsehair. He uses stallion because mares pee on their tail, which weakens the fibers. And the white stallion is pretty transparent. So he tapers it down to 3 strands, and then he actually cheats and puts a nylon tippet on. He ties his own flies without a vise, even down to size 20. And he's the Grand Master, and I've been with him, with Mauro. We walk up to a pool, and he says, oh, there's four fish there. We got Polaroid glasses. He doesn't. And we're looking and looking. We can't see the fish. And he can see them. He says, yeah, there's a brown, a rainbow, a grayling, and I don't know, another rainbow or something. I said, really? I said, yeah, watch. Proceeds to catch all 4 in front of us with this. And he can make the horsehair line, he can read microcurrents so that he can make the horsehair line go down 4 feet down and make it act like a sinking line. He can make it float like a floating line. He does it all with knowledge and skill. Instead of going out and buying an intermediate line, a Western dry fly line, an Eastern dry fly. I mean, he does it all with skill, and you can't outfish this guy.
And he's going back to like the time even before silk, basically. I mean, that's how they did it in the 17th century.
This was the 16th century. And so I thought, well, I better find out what's going on here. So I started fishing with the Tenkara, with that one that guy gave me. And I did it for several years, and I learned so much about giving action to flies. And it changed my whole life in fly fishing. And so I only use a Tenkara rod now to teach kids to fish. I teach kids on the Crow Indian Reservation almost every year, and some farm kids over in Ashton and stuff, because it's the best way to teach. And you don't have to fiddle with reels, and you just go out and fish and catch fish. But what I have done is I switched over to fishing with a 10-foot 2-weight rod. I I haven't fished with a 5-weight rod in years.
It's
So
the sensitivity is that what you're looking for.
I'm looking for that tip sensitivity, and not all companies make a rod that people do make 10-foot 2-weights, but the tip is either too stiff, like a lot of the nymphing rods, they're too stiff. It has to be just right, and actually Echo makes a really good one. The Shadow X 2-weight, and it's very inexpensive. So what I'm doing now is Tenkara fishing with a reel. Basically it.
Yeah.
I don't have to throw the rod in when I catch a big fish and all
And
of
swim
that
for
stuff.
it, throw your rod in and go
I'm too
after
old
it.
to run after the fish anymore. And so, but I've applied what I learned from Tenkara to now my fishing. And at the same time, I got into soft tackles. And I've really pushed the limits of that now. And I've become a much, much better fisherman.
Those things sort of evolved one into another. You start with the rod, and then you moved into simplifying the flies.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back to what you were saying about kids, it's such a great thing to teach kids because it teaches them that it's all about you, and it's your skill that helps you catch the fish. It's not necessarily what's on the end of the line. It's what you do with it.
Well, one year, I was on the Bighorn with these Crow Indian kids, and they're poor as can be, and terribly broken families, and here's these sports going by, boat after boat after boat. The Bighorn is like a raceway,
Yeah.
and I'm telling these kids, hey, these guys are paying $850 a day plus tips. They've got $1,000 rods and reels, but watch this. I go over to a willow, I strip the willow and put a horsehair line on it, and I fly and I walk out and I catch a fish, and I say, look, you guys can do this. And I said, you don't have to, but if you get to be good at this, you can be that guide out there making all that money. And, the last thing you want to do with these kids is frustrate them, because they can never afford a $1,000 rod or a reel. It's like I have friends that have gone to Cuba and tried to teach the Cubans to surf. The Cubans can never get a surfboard. So why teach them how to surf? It just frustrates them.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I use it for teaching, and it's the best way to learn. And it's fly fishing, I know. I'll tell you a story. George Anderson was railing against Tenkara fishing because he built his whole reputation on deciding which is the best 5-weight 9-foot rod,
Mm-hmm.
and he has these shootouts, what the best is and that. He hated Tenkara fishing, and he was talking to McGuane about it one time, and McGuane said, George, stop, listen to me. This is all about Pearl Harbor, isn't it?
That's pretty funny. That actually reminds me of a funny story Monty Burke told, but I don't want to get off topic, but there's a lot of funny stories like that. Actually, I do want to tell it. Monty said he was fishing with you, and you guys were out salmon fishing, and
Oh, I know that story. Want me to tell you that story?
Yeah.
I was in southern Labrador with a bunch of friends, and Monty Burke was there, and everybody was catching fish except me. It's just one of those, salmon fishing is one of those things. I could not catch a fish, and I looked across the river, and here This big fat guy waddles out of his car. He can hardly get out of the car. He goes over and throws his spinning lure out. He catches the salmon. Boom. And drops dead. And the ambulance comes and takes him away. And I'm going, wow. And then this young teenage girl, she walks up. This is all the other side of the river. She walks over, catches the salmon. I'm going, oh my God. And then on my side of the river, this guy comes holding hands with his father, and they walk to a rock downstream of me. So, and sets his father on the rock, puts out like 40 feet of line, hands it to his father, and just tells him to cast like this. And his father catches the salmon in my boots. And I'm going, oh my God, I can't believe it. I was so desperate. My friends show up, and I'm casting with my eyes closed.
Trying to use the blind guy's techniques.
Something had to change. Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Getting back to the new book, Pheasant Tail Simplicity, it's there's a lot of techniques and how to use it, but most of it's about fly tying primarily with pheasant tail.
Yeah.
Why is pheasant tail such a magical material? I'm not disagreeing. I love it too, but like from your perspective, why is that stuff so amazing?
I think it's the perfect tying material, because if you tied nymph bodies, imitates every nymph there is, certainly every mayfly, and it's it's cheap. You just wind it against the hook, and you got a body, and it's durable, and the color it imitates every insect. And I found one of the things I found when I got into soft hackles and stuff. I read all the Sylvester Neames books, and I read everything I could on soft hackles. And so I used to fish with all different color, orange and this, and snipe and this, and green and different colored soft hackles. And I got onto pheasant tail body soft hackle, pheasant tail and Hungarian partridge hackle. And I was fishing with two flies a lot. And I found that 99% of the time they took the pheasant tail. So whether I put it on the dropper or put it on the point, they took the pheasant tail. So I thought, why screw around with all the other colors? So all my soft hackles and Flymphs are all pheasant tail bodies. Yeah. It outfishes everything. And so Craig got on to doing his signature flies, like X-Caddis and all his great flies that he did. And he made them all with pheasant tail bodies, and it made no difference in catch rate.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether there's a pale morning dun hatch, which the pale morning dun is kind of a cream color body, they'll take the pheasant tail body fly. And I started realizing that it's about the action. Is of all the things that are important in a fly, color, size, type of fly, whether it's been invented by so-and-so famous fly tyer. Of all the things, the most important thing is size is important. Color is not important whatsoever. Even though trout see color, forget about color. It's about the action. Trout are predators, and they make decisions by instinct, just like a cat. You know, you take a toy mouse, you draw it across a room on a string in front of a cat, and he just watches it like this, and you stop it, give it a twitch, kaboom, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if the mouse is yellow or green or tan or what. It doesn't matter. And that's what I'm finding out. And in fact, I was on the Spring Creek yesterday that I've never fished before. And somebody recommended that I start with hoppers. And if that doesn't work, hopefully we'll get a PMD hatch and everything. I caught all my best fish on soft tackle.
Also, it's something they're not seeing all the time, probably, on that place.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And then it's the same thing. You know, there's this guy, Jock Scott. That was his synonym. You know, he was Arthur Wood is his real name. He was a salmon fisherman in the turn of the century and up until the 30s. He caught thousands and thousands of salmon. And he had two flies. One was a bear hook painted blue. Another one was a bear hook painted red. And he used those in low water and caught fish. And then he decided, well, I'm going to spend a whole year fishing one fly, the blue charm. Caught as many fish as he always catches. The next year, he spent the whole year with March Brown. Caught as many fish as he always catches. He knew back then that it's the action that counts. And I heard of a bonefish fisherman that does the same thing, a bear hook. He has a painted white bear hook, and I don't remember the other color. And that's it. That's all he does.
But you've done the same kind of experimentation in leading up to your book. Like, you took 4 or 5 years and just fished nothing but pheasant tail stuff, right?
Yeah, I caught as many fish as I always catch. And I was deep in the wilderness of British Columbia where the rainbows have never seen a human before. And it was stupid. I was just catching one fish after another. And I realized that the last 10 fish I'd caught was on a bear hook. I just would quarter down, let the line straighten, I'd give it little twitches, boom.
You put it in the right place and gave it the right action.
So, yeah, so it was an argument. It's an argument for simplifying your fishing and not try to have 2,000 flies in your fly vest. It's like, you know, nymphing, the great nymphers. It's far, far more important to have 3 styles of nymphs in different weights and different sizes than it is to have 100 different style of nymphs. Way, way more important.
That's what a lot of these guys that do those competitions in Europe and stuff.
Oh, yeah,
they just have one fly pattern, but different sizes, different weights. And it's all about your skill in putting it in, you know, presenting it to the fish correctly.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
And with that flies in the face of like what you see on the river every day, other fishermen, what are you using? What you using? What you using? That's, you know, fly fishermen are notorious for asking that. That's really, most of the time it's not what you're using, it's how you're using it.
That's right. That's what it's all about, yeah.
In the book, you wrote a chapter on soft tackles, which was a lot about swinging and the Flymph and everything. And we have an excerpt on that coming in the next issue of Fly Fisherman. And then Craig wrote a story on the dry fly fishing with these pheasant tail adaptations that you mentioned. So on the X-Caddis, he put pheasant tail bodies on it and stuff. When fish are rising, do you switch over to those kind of dry flies? Or do you just keep flymphing?
No, I fish every which way.
Yeah.
I nymph fish, I dry fly fish, I use soft tackles. The only thing I don't do anymore, I don't bother with streamers. They're punishing for the fish, and I find it boring. It's just I haven't streamer fished in I don't know how many years. But it's not that I just don't like it. But my friend Mauro, he's one of the best nymph fishermen in Europe. He's taught some of the guys that are on the Italian fishing team and stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he says all of this Polish, French, Spanish leader setups, and it's all silly. He disregards all of that.
Really?
And in fact, I've gotten so that when I want a nymph, I take my leader off my line and put straight tippet on, straight 5X tippet or 6X tippet. And that's my nymphing setup.
Gets deeper, cuts through the water. You don't need all that tapered stuff at all.
No, the technique though is not easy. The technique is basically trying to get your fly to do this. And, you know, like the water on the bottom of the river is going at a slower speed than the water on the surface. And if you just go nymphing like this, your fly is going to be pulled at the rate of the top water. So it's going to be pulled at an unnatural speed. And so you constantly have to do this. It's called the break. And it also makes the fly do this. It looks like it's emerging.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can do that without all those fancy leaders and stuff like that. You replace it all with technique.
That technique that's in the book, the break.
Yeah.
There's illustrations of it and stuff that's in Mauro's chapter, I think.
It's hard to understand it, tell you the truth.
But that's kind of a Euro nymphing technique, right?
Yeah,
That's very much how they do it
absolutely.
over there.
And you know, to get back to dry fly fishing, I mean, I had the best days fishing this year below the dam here in Jackson, below Jackson Lake, because we get hatches there. You don't get hatches on the main snake. That's why they use these Chernobyl lands, these big rubber legs, and slam them. You know, everybody fishes from a boat. I don't fish from a boat. But I fish below that dam so I can take advantage of the hatches. So I get there 8 a.m, and there's some caddis from the night before. Now they're diving in to lay in their eggs. So I use the soft tackle. I use a Flymph, actually. And Flymph is just a soft tackle on a 2X heavy hook. That's all it is. And then that goes dead. And then I start noticing that there's some PMD spinners coming down. So nothing else will imitate a PMD spinner except a PMD spinner. I can tell you that. It's dead in the water, no action. And so I switched to that, dry fly fishing with a PMD spinner. And then later on, you get PMD emergers. There's probably nymphs too, but PMD emergers. So I go back to a Flymph again. Then that goes dead, and then I notice that, oh, there's duns on the water. So then I put on one of Craig's pheasant tail dun imitations, and I fish that. And so by 3 o'clock, everything goes completely dead, and I'm out of there. But I've had a fantastic day because I've been really observant the whole day. And I've had my nose next to the water trying to figure out what the hell's going on. it's the best day ever.
It's the essence of fly fishing.
Yeah, like when I hear people saying, "Oh, I'm strictly a dry fly fisherman," well, you must live right next to the river because you got about an hour a day to practice dry fly fishing. But if you're like me, I don't live next to the river, and I want to fish the whole day, I have to nymph when it makes sense to nymph. I have to dry fly fish and soft tackles, and also for me, it's stupid to try to dry fly fish in a pool that's 15 feet deep.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. And so it's important to fish a river the way it should be fished. And in fact, I write about this in a book. I was in Patagonia one time with my friend Mauro and Chris Scipio, who's one of the best steelhead fishermen up in BC and a great dry fly fisherman. And we were going to fish the same part of the river. So I said, hey, instead of every man for himself, let's stick together and divide the river up how it should be fished. So Mauro, you take all the deep holes and stuff that makes sense to nymph. I'll fish the riffles, and Chris, you fish all the behind log jams, weird places where you can't get anything. And so we divided the river up that day, and you can't believe how many fish we caught. Instead of just going blindly, well, I'm a dry fly fisherman, I'm going to fish this whole river as a dry fly fisherman, or as a nympher, or whatever.
But you took the water that's best for soft tackles, and you just used the correct technique for the water.
For the water. Not many people think about that. Oh. They just limit themselves to one type of fishing.
So with the pheasant tail thing, you're not being like dogmatic. You say you have to do this all the time. It's just like, this is one way you can get more enjoyment out of your fishing. I think there's a real classic feel with it. Like reading the book, it's pretty obvious that you've read all of the fly fishing literature. This is all based on like Sawyer and Sylvester Neames and like all these classic guys that wrote about it 100 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's like being a rock climber. You say, well, I'm a crack climber. That's all I do, I climb cracks. Well, or a face climber, or a big wall climber, or an ice climber, or an expedition climber. You limit yourself, It's much better to be an all-around person.
All around comfortable in the mountains, or in the terms of fishermen, be all around comfortable on all kinds of waters.
Yeah.
And you're not just a trout fisherman. You've also used these pheasant tails. You do a lot of saltwater fishing. So
I took a soft tackle on a bigger hook, and I put these. I put some weight on it. I don't use lead, by the way. I try to avoid ever using lead, most it's fresh, because it's toxic. And when I see these nymph fishermen in your magazine advocating using lead split shot and stuff, oh God Almighty! One split shot ingested by a swan will kill a swan. I mean, there's no reason why fly fishermen need to be using lead. Now with tin and
tungsten's better.
And tungsten, absolutely. And so I basically make bonefish flies in different weights, because weight is, you want your fly on the bottom. That's number one. And I tied just a soft tackle, a mostly bigger one, from about a size 12 on up. And I doubled the hackle and longer hackles. And so when I give it a little strip, it goes,
Breathes.
it breathes. It's like a jellyfish. And it drives the bonefish crazy. And it's the only bonefish fly I use. And I've given it to how many people, I don't know. And they all come back and say, oh my God, nothing else would work that day. I caught so many bonefish. And it's so simple. If you're a fly tyer, anybody can tie it.
And you go into some fly shops in Florida and stuff, there's 100 different kinds of bonefish flies, different colors, different kinds of flash, different weight, and you just need one, basically.
Well, that's what I found. But you know, with this book, I mean, I got to warn people, if you're not a fly tyer, forget it. You can't buy these flies. Although Umpqua is going to be offering them, but they won't get to the fly shops for a year from now, probably, you know. So you got to be able to tie the flies. So it's a real good reason to learn to tie them. And they're so simple. I mean, tying a Flymph or something, the more ragged it looks, the better it works.
And you get so much more enjoyment out of it. One of the things I was thinking when reading the book, like you got started basically, the first thing you sold was selling pitons out of the back of your car. You made your own pitons because you needed a better tool, basically. Isn't there an analogy here with the fly tying? I mean, that's why you tie flies, because you get exactly what you want.
Yeah, I tie now because I have to do something with my hands every day. You know, I'm a craftsman, and if I don't use my body, I get pretty funky. And tying flies is just a great. It's really satisfying, and I tie flies for a lot of my friends and stuff.
But you get more enjoyment out of it when you're out fishing too, right? Like
it
sort
absolutely
of completes the circle.
No, it's one thing, you know, to sit on a guide boat here, and they give you a rod and a bobber and tell you to stare at the bobber, and or even worse, for me, the tyranny of the bonefish guide drives me crazy. You know, they've made themselves essential because they've raised that platform they stand on higher and higher to the point they can see a fish 60 feet out. And there's no way you can see it. And you can't see it till it's about 20 or 30 feet. So they have you cast before you see the fish and drop your fly, and then they talk you through it, you know. Here he comes, he's coming, okay, give it a strip, long strip. Yes. I mean, I've been on a boat with Lefty who's caught tens of thousands of bonefish, and here's this punk guide telling Lefty how to fish. And I'm in the back going, oh my God, I don't want to be here. This is so embarrassing.
I couldn't agree more. It's almost like they take the fishing away from you.
They do
80% of it. It's like you're getting robbed sometimes.
McGuane calls it a blizzard of micromanagement.
Yes. And it's even worse with tarpon fishing. And like you can't even retrieve it. Like everything, you're just a puppet. May as well be a marionette.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
One time I was in the Bahamas somewhere, and I got so fed up. Oh, I carry snowshoes with me.
Lefty told me that you brought snowshoes on the trip and just jumped out and walked on the soft mud.
Yeah, I do that all the time. And I said, drop me off. Just leave me here. And he did. And I didn't see a single bonefish. So they came back with my lunch, and I said, okay, this time we're going to go around till we see some bonefish. Then you're going to drop me off. So they did, and I got my snowshoes and walked around. I caught more bonefish than the whole lodge put together, that on my own. And in fact, when you use the snowshoes, you're making a mud And you got to watch behind you because you get permit and bonefish following you.
Yeah, they can smell it. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much greater fulfillment than doing it on your own. I think there's another climbing analogy there. Like in climbing, style's everything, and you were like one of the people that made that paramount. I mean, style is very important, and having your own ethics and feeling satisfied at the end of the day and getting enjoyment,
Yeah.
not just like clipping yourself up on the way. So
Yeah.
like how you do it is super important. And I feel like this book is passing that along in fly fishing too. It's how you do it.
Well, yeah, that's what we're hoping, actually. And in fact, you could probably do the same thing we're doing. Instead of using pheasant tail for the body, you could probably use hare's ear. Maybe a dyed, a greenish, brownish hare's ear, and achieve the same thing and discover it yourself. And use one fly.
But the point is you're thinking about it and being observant and not relying on a crutch, just making it all about you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's for me, perfection is achieved through simplicity, instead of complexity. And if you can get your technique down to absolute simplicity by replacing all of that, either material or whatever, with knowledge, it's really satisfying. I got a little spring creek that I fish that is so difficult. Oh my God. They're eating microscopic stuff, and you walk up and you see them, they see you, they won't bite till you sit down on the edge and wait. Then they get used to you, and then you got 7X tippet and size 28 flies. And let me tell you, 86-year-old guy trying to put the tippet through a 28 fly in the wind. But you know what? If I can catch one fish, it's made my day. And some days I catch 10 fish. Some days I catch no fish. But for me, I was just Atlantic salmon fishing in Labrador, and I was dreaming about going back to my spring creek. And it's a public spring creek, but nobody fishes it because it's too difficult.
And you were camping in Labrador.
Yeah. Yeah, we call it Area 51. It's at the headwaters, further up a river where there is a camp. And it's it's another paradigm change that we did, in that the water is crystal clear. It's pretty shallow river, has tons of salmon, and we treat them like they're brown trout. We don't treat them like they're salmon. Salmon, you're swinging flies like this, winged flies normally, or you're using these great big bombers, and so we treat them like they're brown trout, which they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I catch them on size 12 and 14 flies, barbless flies, and dry fly fishing. One of Craig's ex-caddis.
Mm-hmm.
I tie it a little different than he does in the book. I tie a little strand of CDC on top so I can see it. But that's it. And it's got a pheasant tail body, and it's got the shuck hanging off, and size 12 or 14. And we have photos of this thing bobbing along or video in the book. You know, it's an interactive book, so you can has barcodes and you can put your cell phone on it. I can't. I don't have a cell phone.
Yeah, it has QR codes, but
QR code, yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got this little fly bobbing down and a big white mouth coming up in slow motion, taking this fly and then going ape shit, you know, just going up in the air, doing triple somersaults and everything. And I mean, you'd never fish that way in Europe, never. And it's all dry flies. We use a B pattern. I use Flymphs. And you know, and we hitch flies a lot. I was just talking to Paul Brune, and he's doing an article for Trout Unlimited magazine on hitched flies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all over Eastern Canada, they hitch flies a lot. They don't in Europe, except in Iceland. And, but they're hitching like blue charms and stuff. Well, no matter what you do, if you look at that hitch fly, most of the time it's laying on its side. It's just a V that counts.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter whether it's a blue charm or any other fly. So why not hitch a soft hackle? So, because the soft hackle is right side up all the time. In fact, I catch a lot of fish where it's caught here, you know, on the upper lip. It was upside down.
Yeah.
So these winged flies are really pretty stupid, I think.
Yeah, the soft tackle's tied in the round, so
yeah, and also
way they look at it, it's the same.
Also, I tie it in a with a downturn hook. Instead of coming in with your tippet like this, I come in with the tippet this way from the bottom. And then I tie a turtle knot. Hardly anybody knows what a turtle knot is, but it goes around the shank. So then it's already hitched, and you can fish it dry and then let it go down below you, and then it comes back as a waking fly, as a hitched fly. And sometimes I didn't know there were fish down below, and I've caught them, you know, so it fishes both ways.
Yeah, whereas if you hitch a blue charm, you could just swing it, but you can like dead drift yours and fish the entire...
You can fish it dry, you grease it, fish it dry, and then as it goes down below, it comes back with the little V and drives the fish crazy.
That's so cool. And you're catching Atlantic salmon on basically trout flies.
Oh, I was catching 20-pound salmon. Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing.
Yeah, we're having so much, you know, in 3 weeks, no, in about 2 weeks of fishing, we hooked 150 salmon.
Wow.
Now, we didn't land all those because you're supposed to stop fishing when you land 3 fish. So we make sure with these small flies, they're all barbless and stuff, and so they shake the fly off.
A lot of them just jumped off. That's awesome. Well, thank you for coming and talking today. I enjoyed it.
Well, thanks for having me here.
Good luck with the book.
Thank you.